This is the Humanist Talk Show, and this is Namrita, your host. Thank you so much for listening in, and I hope you join us the next time. Hey, David. So awesome to see you here. Thank you for joining the Humanist Talk Show. I just want to let everybody know that how I met you. We were on the same, we are founding members of the Octopus Movement by Perry Noppert. And that's how we know each other. And then you just mentioned that you were in Florida. And I was like, where in Florida? And you're like, oh, well, I'm near Orlando. And I'm like, we have to meet. So we ended up meeting. And I think it was one of the most eye-opening conversations I've had in a while. David, I'll let you introduce yourself, but I just want to say the reason I'm talking to you today is we are talking about how to alleviate the loneliness epidemic among not just men, but many people through technology, and how you are changing the world in your corner the way you know best. So let's introduce you and let's talk about you.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to be here, and it was really great to meet you. I was staying with my auntie down between Tampa and Orlando, and we happened to be. I know you live down there, so I was like, "Heck, let's get together." A
Yes.
little bit of my background. So I was software developer for many years. As you know, I'm not neurotypical. I would have what would be called the condition that was formerly known as Asperger's. So I was great software developer. Started my first business when I was 16 doing websites for local businesses, but had a car accident, got really sick, had all that taken away, had to go on disability. And I was so ashamed of myself, kind of hid myself away for a long time. But eventually, once I hit rock bottom, reached out for the right help. And to give my life a new purpose and meaning, I started running these meetup groups in my local city. Started with one and added another one. I just want to help other people make friends because what you give away to other people, you gain for yourself. So started with one, then had another one, and then COVID came and took that away again because we couldn't meet in person.
Oh, yeah.
So I pivoted to go online and I started International Friend Connection. And today I have 46 chapters, about 37,000 members, cities all over the world through the Meetup platform. Um, for my work in building such a large community, I've helped Meetup out a lot. And actually, David Siegel, the former CEO, that was recently replaced in the buyout, he named me as the founding brand ambassador for in 2023.
Yes.
Now, after helping thousands of people beat social anxiety, I found a new program called the Friend Magnet, which is a 6-week program that takes people through my journey of 10 years to be able to be an expert at making friends and making connections with people. But I can take that 10 years and boil it down into about 5 or 6 weeks. And I teach a lot of psychological resilience, growth mindset, emotional intelligence, and real life social skills. But my work over the past 9 years, I've been acknowledged with 3 medals from the President of the United States, President Biden, and I was recently named a Point of Light Award winner by the Points of Light Foundation, which was established in 39 countries by President George H.W. Bush. And
Yep.
my passion is really solving that social isolation and loneliness crisis because that was me after I went in disability. I was so ashamed. I thought all people were awful, but I learned I was just meeting the wrong people all my life.
Yes,
And now
you
my
were.
goal is
Yeah.
to connect 1 million people over the next 10 years.
So, David, I want to ask you this. So, you said so two things. First, yes, you are a point of light. I believe
Thank you.
we all have some light within us, and I think yours shines very bright. You turned your pain. See, the loneliness is a pain. People are lonely. They don't have a confidant. They can't say the truth of their heart to someone, and
I
sometimes
think
it's easier.
loneliness, sorry to interrupt, but I think
No,
loneliness actually is one of the greatest pains.
yes,
And it's
yes,
not
because
realized as a
you
pain.
sometimes speak to strangers you open up to strangers much more than you can open up to people around you. And I think it's the pain that you carry. And I think it's one of the biggest, they say it's one of the biggest killers after smoking. So my question to you is this: you turned your pain into power.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it took a long time, but what made you say that, okay, if I have overcome this, or I'm in the process, I'm healing, I want to take other people along with me on this journey? What made you say that? What made you think that?
Well, it's very easy, and that happened to me. It happened to me for a long time. Is that when you've been hurt by society, when you've been bullied a lot, when you've had everything taken away, you can kind of turn to darkness and you can hate people easily. and blame other people for your position in life, because yeah, a lot of things not fair. You get in a car accident, everything gets taken away. But eventually, I just said, you know what? Let's give all this stuff a try. Maybe being kind to people and maybe becoming a different person will result in a better quality of life. Therapist said, you know what you're doing in life isn't working for you. You're miserable. So let's
Yeah.
try something different. And like my background in Christian, read the Bible. Really, this part that speaks to me is a parable of the Good Samaritan. About, and the lesson from that is, who are you supposed to be kind to? And you're supposed to be kind to everybody, treat everyone like your brother. And so I have a lot of doubts about religion, but I've made peace with it. And I believe in the philosophy of being kind to people, and that the world has to be a better place because you are in it. Because the more I applied that philosophy, the more joy and the more better my life became. And so now I'm a firm believer. And I believe all religions kind of teach generally a lot of the same thing about doing good for the world and doing good for others.
David, that's such an important point, but I want to stop you and ask you this, because that will be the question in everybody's mind, right? That when you reach out to people and you start trusting them, you start being kind, you go with that attitude that, you know what, I'm gonna be treating this stranger as my brother. There's a lot of trust involved, right?
Yeah.
How do you make sure that your trust is not broken? How do you protect yourself? Because people don't reach out to people because of the fear that either they will be judged or rejected or not, or harmed in some way. how do
Yeah.
you how do you stop that?
And everybody has all those fears. But you see, you can let fear paralyze you. And if you don't do something different, you'll keep having the same light. So we got to reach out, we got to trust, but there's a certain way to do it. Now, in Adam Grant's book Give and Take, he talks about how givers can end up succeeding over people that are really selfish and just take. But there's a certain way you have to go about doing it. And that is, you can start by giving to other people, you can start by being kind to other people, but you got to see if they'll reciprocate. If you do
Mm,
it and they never reciprocate, those are people that don't really need to be your friends. Those are people you don't really need to work with, because those are just takers. But if you
mm,
find someone that will kind of give you, or you can start out by asking someone for a small favor and see if they'll do it, and then that's somebody that you can work with. So you have to kind of know how to screen people. And like, I have a brilliant friend who's a brilliant relationship coach, Seal the Deal. She's in LA. She's
mm,
actually, after experiencing great heartbreak, she's taught me how to kind of screen people to prevent future heartbreak, because not everybody's going to be your friend, not
not
everybody you're
everybody is your
compatible with.
friend.
And it doesn't mean that people are bad people just because you're not compatible as friends. It means you got different lifestyles, different goals in life, and doesn't mean they're a bad person. Just you want different things. And so you
Lovely.
want to find people that are kind of going the same direction you are.
Equally delusional as you are. I
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got
yeah. Equally delusional, that believes that, hey, there is good in the world,
there's
and
good in the world. Yeah.
that we can be kind. Yeah,
So I have a question, and this comes from the podcast that is happening right, in the Octopus movement, from that,
yeah,
right? So you saw Isis. Isis is like a Gen Z, right? Like young person, and
yeah,
then there's Yoka, who is 83, right? She's a Holocaust survivor, and they are both connecting because they're so honest with each other. They're both, they're trusting each other. They believe in the similar values of being kind. uh, what would you want to say about, in corporate America, there's a lot of disconnect, there's a lot of people don't trust each
yeah.
other, and do you think we could bridge certain gaps, like generational gaps, leadership gaps, by being a little bit more trusting and reaching out to people and asking, hey, are you lonely, let's get a coffee, let's have a conversation, can we, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think so. It can be very hard in a corporate environment because corporations are usually kind of just out for themselves and to get whatever they can get as cheaply as possible. And so it can be difficult, but I think we got to focus on kind of the difference between being kind and being nice. And I think one of the differences is being kind involves boundaries, and nice people are people pleasers. They tend to give everything away until they're angry and resentful. And but being kind means actually looking out for yourself as well as looking out for other people. and kind of having other people's best interests at heart rather than just giving them everything they want.
Well, I mean,
But
what you just
yeah,
said is worth like a $10,000, thing. You
and
just
I
like
learned
drop.
that the hard way because I would give and give and give and give, and then one day I realized I'm kind of getting angry and resentful, and that's not David Good. David Good's not the angry person, and what's going on here? And then so I
Yeah,
talked to many therapists and other people, and they're like, "Well, you've been overgiving, and that is a such thing as overgiving, giving beyond what you have the potential to do."
yeah,
And you don't want to suffer from burnout because, as you know, people on the spectrum, we can suffer from autistic burnout, where we just want to do one thing and go gung ho. And that's been the story of my work life is I'll go gung ho in the job, be the best person that's in the job, and then get so burnt out I'll be sick for a long time. But I was able to stop myself last year because I had advisors telling me, "Oh, it looks like you're getting ready to get burnt out," and that made me mad. I don't want somebody telling me you don't tell me to stop
so
when I'm going, but
they could tell,
oh
like
yeah, yeah,
right
they could
before you were
tell
burning
I was
out, they
getting
could.
burnt out, and so then I knew to pull
What were the
back.
signs? Do you know what the
Well,
signs
I
were?
was kind of I was clenching a lot. I was getting more migraines. So my migraines will tell me when I'm burnt out because I have chronic migraines, and generally that's like 15 days a month. Now it's down to a couple days a week, maybe a couple days a month. I'm bedridden. When it gets real bad, when I'm starting to be bedridden more days, that's a sign that I'm doing too much, stressing myself out. I got to pull back. So my
Mm,
body will tell me, but sometimes my mind will be like, no, we got to keep going and going. But I had other people telling me you're going to burn yourself out. And finally, they made me mad by saying that, but finally I listened to them. It was something I needed to hear. But
yeah,
back to the corporate America thing, how can we bridge gaps? And one of the thing is my friend Bob Berg will talk about, I think in one his book, The Go Giver Influencer, which is one of the most influential books I've ever read. I love the Go Giver series. And in it, it says you got to let go of having to be right. You got to step into the other person's shoes and really empathize with that. And the way I empathize with people is by channeling their pain. When they're talking about something they're going through that's going hard, I try to listen without judgment. And in my mind, I say, okay, this is very painful to them. So I think back to my days when I was in endless physical pain with the migraines and in bed almost like 30 days of the month because I was in so much pain. I think back to those endless depression days where some days you had to choose to live for another day. And I
you have to
kind of
choose to
compare
live
that.
for another day. You're exactly,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
choice.
yeah. Some days it's been so bad you've had to choose to live for another day. And that is really rough. Um, very few people have to go through that level of pain, but so so when someone talks about their pain, I don't say that, oh, it's not as bad as mine, so I'm going to discount their pain and like they don't know what suffering is. I mean, people's suffering is suffering is not a contest. People's suffering is valid whether it's a little or a lot compared to somebody else. The first time you go through suffering, it hurts extra bad. So I tend to listen to them because I've been through a lot of suffering and I don't like to for other people to go through a lot of that suffering. So I think
Exactly, because you've already been through it. It's just
if I
so
think we remove our judgment from other people, it helps us connect with other people more across generations. And people that judge other people harshly also judge themselves even more harshly. The people that have a lot of hate in their hearts, the people that can't forgive other people, they hate themselves the most inside.
you're right. You're so right. So, David, uh, I want to talk about the depression side of it, right? I saw. I mean, there's so many movies and books out there, but
Yeah,
one that made a significant impact on me was, I don't remember, was it Iranian or a Turkish movie, but the girl went silent. She couldn't speak, and she came to the psychologist and wrote like, "I'm not able to speak. I don't know what's going on." And the psychologist went with her over and over and over, and eventually realized that she was depressed. It was her depression that had basically shut down one of her strengths. And I think that's where the depression that we get, or when we are lonely we get into depression, or when we are depressed we get lonely. It's a self-feeding cycle.
yeah,
How does one break that cycle? Like, you are in that spiral. At what point, what do you have to say to break it? Like, what is it that you look for if you're in that cycle? Let's say if somebody's just ready to, just like, oh my god, I'm so done. What will
yeah.
bring them off the edge?
First step, if first step is being aware of what you're going through, And that is the very first step. The second step is letting go of your own ego and reaching out for help. So many people don't do that because one of the reasons in America, we tend to think all the successful people are self-made. And it's like, oh, if we can't get through this ourselves, we don't deserve to get through it. But that's a bunch of BS. Everybody that's at the top, that's the most successful in any field, is that way because they've had the most help and mentorship along the way. And it's people who reach out for the most help that wind up on top. So you got to reach out for the help. And first step is to reach out for a good therapist. There are many modalities to use. I'm a big fan of acceptance commitment therapy, which that one will help you find your mission and purpose in life and set goals, which will
There is a
help you.
specific,
Yeah,
there is a
which will help you do behavioral activation, which will help you walk your way out of that depression. And then,
we can ask for it. Like
yeah, yep,
we
you can
can
ask for
look for a
acceptance and
therapist who
commitment therapy.
specializes.
Yeah, you can go
Yeah.
on Psychology Today. You can search in your area by specific therapy type. But there's a newer one called Internal Family Systems. And what
Mm.
that does, it removes all the junk from your past that's preventing you from finding that meaning and purpose in life, preventing you from reaching your goals. It's pretty mind blowing to go through, but it can be pretty intensive and painful to go through. Not many people have the I think not many people have the wherewithal to look inside themselves and to realize they need to change and to change themselves. I know a mountain guy that climbs mountains, Kevin DeVries, and now he runs a men's group helping men because he was halfway up through Everest and he got an epiphany. He realized, you know what? I'm climbing these mountains for all these external reasons when really the mountain I need to climb is the one inside of me. So he made a sacrifice. It was like a sacrifice to God. He's like, I'm going to sacrifice getting to the peak of Everest and I'm going to go down and I'm going to work on myself and climb that mountain inside because that's really the true mountain to climb. And now he has an organization helping men all across the USA.
Now let's talk about your purpose that you're doing. Very you started with the loneliness epidemic among men. Um, so why specifically men? Because even I have
Well,
seen
that's
lonely
kind of new.
women
I
as
kind of
well.
started with everybody, but because that's my story of being a lonely young man, I
Do you
feel
think
that's
it's
who I can reach out
conditioning?
and help the most.
Do you think it's social conditioning that boys don't cry, boys don't reach out for help,
Yeah,
and
I
then we
think a
keep it
lot of it,
inside?
like a lot of men, you start talking about anything emotional, they will leave the room. They're almost afraid. A therapist of mine, friend of mine, said he used to work for the VA, and there was a guy. It took 5 guys to hold him down in a bar fight. That's how tough he was. But he went to the VA to work on his PTSD, and they go a few sessions of therapy, and the inner work was too frightening for him that he ran away. He would not run away from people in a bar fight. He would not run away in a battle, but to do that inner work, he was more terrified of that inner work than going into battle. I think that's true for a lot of men. We focus on physical toughness, but once we go to face our inner demons, a lot of people will run away.
Yep.
That's kind of true for men and women both,
Yeah.
but maybe a bit more men because men in America we're taught to be detached from our emotions and
Yes.
strong and always strong, but that ends up with a male suicide rate that's way higher than it needs to be.
Agreed. And addiction and like so much more
Yeah.
comes from it. Exactly. So I want to talk about your platform now. You have your platform, the Friends Connection. Is it the one behind you? Is that the
Yeah. So that's International Friend Connection. You can find it at internationalfriendconnection.com in our groups. Just launched a personal website, davidgood.org. And then soon I'll launch my friend magnet program. I'd recorded a 6-week course, and it'll be a group program that'll take people through. But then I need to re-record it. I shortened some areas, lengthened longer areas. But
and
yeah,
what is it?
so
Is it a self-paced course or is it more
so
live support?
it'll be self-paced and there'll also be a group program that people can join at any time. So what I found when I've been through group programs, what's really helpful is having people at different levels in there. So when I've been in business group programs like for marketing or business coaching, you go in there and there are people that have at more advanced than I was. So when I'm starting out and I'm struggling, people are like, I went through that problem a couple of years ago and I know you're going to get through it too. And that was so reassuring.
Yes, yes,
So I want to
yes.
have people at all different levels inside the program so that the beginners will get reassured by the more senior members.
So when you have those communities, and I call it communities because I'm also in the NAS community, in the octopus movement. It's a
Yeah.
community, right? So what would you have something like targeted to some kind of like a job profile? For example, you're a developer. Do you feel that developers get in their code, get so they put their blinders on, they're just coding, they don't want to talk to people. You tell them, okay, go present to the executive, and they're like, no, I don't want to be seen. I want to be right here.
Yeah.
Do you think you can open up like platform or courses or channels to support such folks
Yeah,
or
that's some
specific
people I
kind of
want to
folks?
target because there's people that have really great jobs and stuff, but they don't realize the importance of soft skills, the importance of like being likable and friendly with people and getting along with people. Because I talk with so many business owners, especially older people that own businesses, and they're to the point where like, if we do not like someone, we don't want them working with us anymore because it is just so stressful and difficult to deal with someone that we don't look forward to seeing come to the office every day that has like a miserable personality. And
Yes.
these are all skills that can be learned. I got a friend that owns a big factory here, and his son's taking it over now. And I was hearing about the work I do, and he's like, "Oh, this is so great because I give a speech to every new hire. I say you got to have three things: you got to be good at your job, you got to have a good relationship with your boss, and you got to know how to make friends. And everyone that does that stays at the company a long time. Everyone that isn't able to do those three things, they usually end up getting fired or they quit."
Yes. Yes. You do need a community to survive. I
Yeah.
mean, that's how humans are, social
Yeah,
animals. If
humans
we are not,
evolved over those hundreds of thousands of years so that we evolved in groups. And when we don't see people for a few days, it affects us, except for the rare person. I got a buddy. I mean, his dream life would be living in a cabin in the woods, chopping wood and painting. He would be fine, but that's like one person out of a million. Most people need to be in communities, and we've
yes.
gotten away from that so much in America here
Yes.
compared to other countries.
Is it because we are more technologically advanced, for example, remote work, or even
Yeah, I
just
think so.
just being so married to your phone and your screen all the time that you're not ready to look up and actually talk to people?
Yeah.
um, how can we actually leverage and flip it to the other side? How do we leverage the same technology to connect with, like you and me are connecting? We've met
Yeah,
only
yeah.
once, but we are
Yeah,
connected.
and
How do we do
Meetup
that?
is a great platform for that because there's all kind of people running these community groups and a lot of exciting things going on with Meetup now. They got purchased by Bending Spoons in Italy, and they're going to pump $50 million into the platform to really improve the platform for us organizers. So
do
I'm
you
looking
do you see
forward to
something
that.
like a retreat where where people who know each other virtually, they meet, they go travel to some place, something like that, or they can meet at some place in person and have that conversation? Because many
Well,
people are
yeah, it's
scared of
even
meeting in person
simpler
too.
than that. Running like local small events at coffee shops,
Yeah.
bookstores, things like that. Local businesses where people can meet. They don't. It doesn't have to be a super huge event. Actually, more small, intimate events. People can get to know each other better.
But how
And
is it different from, let's say, a networking event? Because networking events are so upsuited and
yeah,
so, how
yeah,
do you make
business
it more
networking events,
fun
everybody's
and
got to be serious and everything. And you talk about work and things, but you're not really getting to know who the people actually are. These are kind of more casual events where people can just let their hair down and have a good time.
yeah, yeah. David, well, I have 5 minutes, so I want to tell you that I think this was a great conversation, and I think we should make a series out of it, maybe once a month or once in 2 weeks,
Oh,
just
yeah,
so
that'd be
that
great.
people know that some help like this. I mean, you are a channel for help, that this help exists, and I will obviously talk to the developer community, to a lot of people. This is an important part of our whole human journey, and I think
Yeah.
you're doing brilliant work. So I would love to, showcase your work, and we should probably do this every 2 weeks.
And the closing thing I will say is something I did not realize my whole life, in that making friends and getting along with people and being liked by people and having those good relationships, it is all a skill that can be learned. And
It
that
can be
blew
learned.
my mind. Like I could go from someone that would have the shakes around meeting someone new like you, like 10 years ago. I would have been terrified to meet you down in Tampa. But now,
Yes.
no big deal at all. And it's a skill that you learn in practice.
Yes. Yes. And if somebody doesn't like you, it's their problem. There are a billion people, more 8 billion people on the planet. Somebody's going to like you. You're going to find your people. I mean, who cares? So,
Yeah, that's true.
David, thank you so much. Like always a pleasure talking to you. Always a pleasure interacting with you. We should, get a group going and, we can talk about these things, but thank you so much.
Yeah, it would be cool to expand my shy people social anxiety groups down to Tampa. Give me a reason to get down there more.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday.
You too.
Thank you. This is the Humanist Talk Show, and this is Namrita, your host. Thank you so much for listening in, and I hope you join us the next time.